The card fell from Maria's pocket as she collapsed. It was 3 a.m. The Mitchell mansion was silent, except for the sound of her knees hitting the marble floor. She'd been scrubbing the same kitchen counter for the third time that night, her vision blurring with exhaustion. James Mitchell stood in the doorway, still in his suit from the office. He'd come home to grab files for tomorrow's meeting. He hadn't expected to find his housekeeper unconscious on his kitchen floor. "Maria!" He rushed forward, catching her before her head hit the ground. The card slipped from Maria's uniform pocket, landing face up on the pristine white floor. James saw it immediately. Crayon drawings, a child's handwriting. His hands were shaking as he picked it up. "Dear Maria, thank you for the doll. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. Not because it's pretty, but because you made it. Daddy buys me everything, but you gave me something better. You gave me a friend. I wish you were my mommy. Love, Sophie." James read the last line again. "I wish you were my mommy." His 7-year-old daughter, the child he'd given everything to, the little girl he worked 18-hour days to provide for. She wished her housekeeper was her mother. James looked at Maria, still unconscious in his arms. Her hands were red and raw from cleaning. Her uniform had a patch sewn over a hole. Her shoes were worn through at the heels. And she'd been working herself to exhaustion to buy his daughter a gift her daughter treasured more than anything he'd ever given her. What James didn't know was that this moment, this card, this woman in his arms, was about to change everything he thought he knew about being a father. And maybe, just maybe, about what it meant to let someone in again.
The alarm went off at 4:30 a.m. Maria Santos silenced it quickly, careful not to wake her son in the next room. She sat up in the small bed, her back aching from yesterday's work. 35 years old, dark hair pulled into a practical bun, hands that told stories of hard labor. She'd been in America for 8 years, a widow for 3. Her husband, Carlos, had died in a construction accident when their son Diego was 5. No life insurance, no savings, just debt and a funeral she was still paying off. Maria dressed quietly in the dark. The housekeeper uniform was clean, but faded. She'd bought it second-hand 3 years ago and wore it 6 days a week. In the kitchen, she made 2 lunches. One for Diego, 8 years old, who would catch the school bus at 7 a.m., one for herself, because the Mitchell house didn't provide meals for staff. She left a note on the counter. "Diego, cereal in the cabinet. Lock the door. I love you. Mama." By 5:30 a.m., Maria was on the bus heading to the wealthy side of town. She watched the neighborhoods change through the window. Small apartments giving way to houses, houses giving way to mansions. The Mitchell estate sat at the end of a private drive. 8 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, a kitchen bigger than Maria's entire apartment. She used her key to enter through the service door. The house was always quiet in the mornings. Mr. Mitchell left for the office by 6 a.m. His daughter Sophie didn't wake until 7. Maria had worked here for 2 years. She'd seen 4 different nannies come and go. Each one lasted a few months before quitting, complaining that Mr. Mitchell was impossible to work for, that the hours were unpredictable, that the little girl was too needy. Maria didn't think Sophie was needy. She thought Sophie was lonely. As Maria began her morning routine, she passed Sophie's bedroom. The door was cracked open. Through it, she could see the little girl sleeping, surrounded by a mountain of stuffed animals and expensive toys. But her small hand was clutching something else, a worn photograph. She'd seen it before. Sophie's mother, beautiful, smiling, gone for 3 years. Cancer, the previous nanny had told her, quick and cruel. Mr. Mitchell never spoke about it, never spoke about much of anything, actually. Just left instructions on the kitchen counter and disappeared into his home office or the corporate tower downtown. Maria returned to her work. There were floors to mop, bathrooms to clean, laundry to wash. This was her life now. And she was grateful for it, even if her hands ached and her back screamed by the end of each day. Because Diego had food, had a roof, had a chance at the American dream his father had died trying to give him. That was enough. It had to be.
Sophie Mitchell woke up at 7:15 a.m. 7 years old, blonde hair that tangled in her sleep, blue eyes that looked too old for her face. She sat up slowly, listening. The house was quiet. Daddy was already gone. She knew without looking. He was always gone. Sophie got out of bed and walked down the long hallway. Her footsteps echoed on the hardwood floors. Everything in this house echoed. It felt empty even when people were here. She found Maria in the kitchen, making breakfast. "Good morning, Miss Sophie," Maria said warmly. "You want pancakes?" Sophie's face brightened. This was the best part of her mornings, the hour before the nanny arrived, when it was just her and Maria. "Yes, please." Maria made pancakes shaped like hearts. She cut them into small pieces and added fresh strawberries, arranging them like a smile on the plate. "There," Maria said, setting it down. "Happy breakfast." Sophie ate slowly, watching Maria work. She liked watching her. Maria hummed while she cleaned. She smiled at nothing. She made the big, empty house feel less empty. "Maria," Sophie asked quietly. "Yes, honey?" "Do you have kids?" Maria paused and then smiled. "Yes, a son, Diego. He's 8. Does he go to school?" "Every day." "Does he like it?" "Sometimes yes, sometimes no," Maria laughed. "But he goes because education is important." Sophie was quiet for a moment, and then she asked, "Do you have dinner with him every night?" Maria's expression softened. She understood what Sophie was really asking. "Yes, honey. Every night I can." "That's nice," Sophie whispered. The nanny arrived at 8 a.m. Her name was Claire. She was the 4th one this year. "Good morning, Sophie," Claire said, in that bright, fake voice adults used when they were being paid to be cheerful. "Ready for a fun day?" Sophie wasn't ready. She was never ready. But she nodded anyway because that's what good girls did. Maria watched as Claire led Sophie to the playroom, watched as Sophie's shoulders slumped, watched as the light went out of the little girl's eyes. Maria had seen it before. Nannies who followed schedules but not hearts, who watched the clock and counted the hours until Mr. Mitchell came home. Except Mr. Mitchell rarely came home. By noon, Maria had finished the upstairs. She came down to find Sophie sitting alone in the playroom, surrounded by toys. The nanny was in the kitchen, on her phone. "She's fine," Claire said when Maria glanced at her. "Playing independently, that's healthy." But Sophie wasn't playing. She was just sitting there, staring at nothing. Maria's heart broke a little bit more. That evening, after Maria had gone home, after Claire had left, after Sophie had eaten dinner alone at the long dining table, James Mitchell came home. It was 9 p.m. Sophie was supposed to be in bed, but she was sitting on the stairs, waiting. "Daddy?" James looked up, surprised. "Sophie, what are you doing awake?" "I wanted to say good night." "Oh, well, good night then." "Daddy, can we have breakfast tomorrow? Just us?" "I have an early meeting, sweetheart." "What about dinner?" "I'm not sure what time I'll be home." Sophie's lip trembled. "You're never home." "That's enough." His voice was sharp, tired. "Go to bed. We'll talk another time." Sophie didn't argue. She'd learned not to. She went to her room, climbed into her big bed, and cried quietly into her pillow. In the morning, Maria found Sophie's pillowcase still damp with tears. And something in Maria made a decision.
It was Sophie's 7th birthday. Maria arrived at 5:30 a.m., as usual, but today she carried something extra. A small bag from the dollar store. Balloons, streamers, a banner that said, "Happy Birthday." She'd spent $20 of her grocery money. Diego would have to eat pasta for a week, but it was worth it. Maria decorated the kitchen before anyone woke up. Pink and purple balloons, streamers over the doorway. The banner stretched across the window where the morning light would make it glow. When Sophie came down for breakfast, she stopped in the doorway. Her eyes went wide. "Surprise," Maria said, smiling. "Happy birthday, Miss Sophie." Sophie's lip trembled. Then she burst into tears. Maria rushed forward, alarmed. "What's wrong? You don't like it?" "I love it," Sophie sobbed, throwing her arms around Maria's waist. "No one's ever decorated for me before." Maria held the little girl, her own eyes burning with tears she refused to let fall. That morning, the nanny called in sick. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Mitchell," the agency said. "We can't find a replacement on such short notice." James, already at the office, swore under his breath. "Fine. Maria, can you watch for today?" Maria, overhearing on the kitchen phone, said, "Yes, sir. I'll pay extra." "That's not necessary. I'll be home by 6 p.m. He wasn't. He never was. But Maria didn't mind, because for one day she got to give Sophie something she desperately needed: attention. They baked cookies together, chocolate chip, Sophie's favorite. They got flour everywhere and laughed when Maria accidentally dropped an entire bag of sugar on the floor. They ate lunch on the back patio, sandwiches cut into star shapes. They played hide-and-seek in the massive house, Sophie's laughter echoing through halls that had been silent for too long. At 3 p.m., Sophie climbed into Maria's lap, while they sat in the reading nook. "Maria?" she asked softly. "Yes, honey?" "Do you like being here? With me?" Maria's throat tightened. "I love it." "Really?" "Really." Sophie was quiet for a moment, then she whispered, "I wish you were my mommy." Maria's heart shattered and healed in the same instant. She hugged Sophie tighter. "Your mommy is watching over you, honey, from heaven. She loves you so much." "But you're here," Sophie said simply. "And Daddy's not." What could Maria say to that? At 8 p.m., James Mitchell finally came home. He found Maria and Sophie asleep on the couch, a movie playing on the TV. Sophie was curled against Maria's side, peaceful in a way James hadn't seen in years. He stood there for a long moment watching them. Then he cleared his throat. "Maria." Maria woke up with a start. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm sorry, It's fine." His voice was stiff. "You can go home now. I'll handle her." As Maria gathered her things, she heard Sophie wake up and call out, "Maria, don't go." "I have to, honey, but I'll see you tomorrow." "Promise?" "I promise." As Maria left, James Mitchell stood in the hallway, listening to his daughter cry for the housekeeper. Not for him. For the woman who spent $20 she probably couldn't afford to make a birthday banner. Something twisted in James's chest, something that felt uncomfortably like shame. But he pushed it down and went to his office to work.
Maria made a decision that night. She'd seen Sophie's face when she woke up to birthday decorations. She'd heard the longing in the little girl's voice when she said, "I wish you were my mommy." Sophie needed more than cleaning services and professional distance. She needed to know someone cared. So Maria started saving. She took on extra shifts at the restaurant 2 nights a week, washing dishes after her day at the Mitchell house. She got home at midnight, slept 4 hours, and started again at 4:30 a.m. Diego noticed. "Mama, you're never home anymore." "I know, mijo. I'm sorry. Just for a little while." Why? How could she explain that she was saving for a little girl who had everything except what mattered? "For something important," she finally said. After a month, Maria had saved $400. She went to the craft store on her day off, bought fabric, stuffing, thread, buttons, and a pattern for a handmade doll. Maria had learned to sew from her grandmother in Mexico. She hadn't made anything in years, not since Carlos died, but her hands remembered. She worked on it late at night, after Diego was asleep, carefully cutting fabric, stitching by hand because her old sewing machine had broken and she couldn't afford to fix it. The doll took shape slowly. Brown yarn for hair, braided like Sophie's mother had worn in the photograph. Blue button eyes, a simple dress sewn from fabric scraps. It wasn't fancy. It wouldn't cost $400 in any store, but it was made with love. Every stitch was a prayer. Every detail was intentional. Maria gave the doll a small heart embroidered on its chest in red thread, strong and bright. Diego found her working on it one night. "Who's that for?" "A little girl who needs something real." "Is she poor like us?" Maria smiled sadly. "No, mijo. She's something worse. She's rich and lonely." On the last day of the month, Maria wrapped the doll carefully in tissue paper. She left it in Sophie's room before Sophie woke up. No note, no explanation, just the doll sitting on the pillow. When Sophie found it that morning, she screamed with joy. Maria heard it from downstairs, heard the little feet running down the hallway. "Maria, Maria, look what someone left me!" Sophie burst into the kitchen holding the doll like it was made of glass. "Did you see who left it?" Sophie asked, breathless. Maria smiled. "No, honey, but whoever made it must love you very much." Sophie studied the doll, touching the embroidered heart. Then she looked at Maria with those 2 old eyes. "You made this," she whispered. Maria did not deny it. "Do you like it?" "I love it." Sophie hugged the doll. "It's my favorite thing in the whole world." That afternoon, when Maria was cleaning upstairs, she found Sophie at the kitchen table working on something with crayons and construction paper. A thank you card. Sophie wrote slowly, carefully, her second-grade handwriting still shaky but determined. When she finished, she folded it and handed it to Maria. "This is for you," Sophie said shyly. Maria's hands trembled as she opened it. "Dear Maria, thank you for the doll. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. Not because it's pretty, but because you made it. Daddy buys me everything, but you gave me something better. You gave me a friend. I wish you were my mommy. Love, Sophie." Maria read it 3 times, tears streaming down her face. "Miss Sophie," she whispered, "this is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me." "Really?" "Really." Sophie hugged her. "Don't cry, Maria. Happy tears are okay." Maria laughed through her tears. "Yes, honey, these are very happy tears." She tucked the card carefully into her uniform pocket. She would keep it forever. The double shifts caught up with Maria 2 weeks later. She'd been running on 4 hours of sleep a night, working at the Mitchell house from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., at the restaurant from 4 p.m. to midnight, then home to sleep before starting again. Her hands shook when she held the mop. Her vision blurred when she read Diego's homework. Her back screamed every time she bent down. But she kept going, because stopping meant Diego didn't eat, meant the rent didn't get paid, meant everything Carlos had died for would be lost. It was 2:30 a.m. when Maria's body finally gave out. She'd come back to the Mitchell house to finish cleaning the kitchen. She'd spilled something that afternoon and hadn't had time to clean it properly. She was scrubbing the same spot over and over, not even seeing it anymore. Then the room tilted. The mop clattered to the floor. Maria tried to catch herself, but her legs were made of water. The last thing she heard was her own voice, barely a whisper. Diego. Then darkness.
James Mitchell arrived home at 2:45 a.m. He'd been at the office for 21 hours straight. A merger deal, critical, worth $200 million. He just needed to grab files from his study and return to close the deal. He wasn't supposed to find his housekeeper collapsed on his kitchen floor. Maria! He dropped his briefcase and rushed forward, catching her before her head hit the marble. Her skin was cold, her pulse was weak, her eyes rolled back. Maria, wake up! That's when the card fell from her pocket. James saw it land face up, saw Sophie's handwriting, his daughter's careful letters. He picked it up with shaking hands, and he read the words that would change everything. I wish you were my mommy. James stared at the card, at the crayon drawings, at his daughter's confession. Then he looked at Maria, unconscious in his arms. Her hands were raw from cleaning, her uniform was patched, her face was gaunt from exhaustion. And she'd been working herself to death to buy his daughter a handmade doll. A doll Sophie treasured more than the thousands of dollars of toys he'd bought. Because Maria had given something James never had. Time. Attention, love. James called 911. When the paramedics arrived, they checked Maria's vitals. Severe exhaustion, one said. Dehydration. Probably hasn't eaten properly in weeks. How many hours a day does she work? James opened his mouth, closed it. He had no idea. Sir? 8, he said. 8 hours a day here. The paramedic gave him a look that said he knew James was lying. They took Maria to the hospital. James followed in his car, the card still clutched in his hand. In the ER waiting room, he read it again. Daddy buys me everything, but you gave me something better. His hands were shaking. You gave me a friend. James Mitchell had built an empire. He'd turned his father's failing company into a global powerhouse. He'd made Fortune 500 before he was 40. And his 7-year-old daughter wished her housekeeper was her mother. A nurse came out. Maria Santos? James stood. How is she? She'll be fine. Needs rest, fluids, food. She's been working too hard. The nurse paused. She kept saying a name, Diego. Is that her husband? Her son. Is someone with him? James froze. What? The boy, is someone watching him? I don't know. The nurse's expression hardened. She has no one else, no family in the city. If her son is home alone... James was already moving. What's her address?
He found Diego in a one-bedroom apartment in the poorest part of the city. The 8-year-old boy answered the door, eyes red from crying. Who are you? Diego asked, voice shaking. I'm James Mitchell. Your mother works for me. She's in the hospital. Diego's face crumpled. Is she dead? No, she's fine. But she needs to rest. Is there anyone who can stay with you? Diego shook his head. James looked around the apartment. Tiny, clean, almost empty. A futon in the corner, a small TV, a kitchen with old appliances. This was where Maria went every night. This was what she was working for. Pack a bag, James said suddenly. What? You're coming with me until your mother is better.
Diego stared at him. "Why would you help us?" James looked at this small boy, the same age as Sophie, standing in this apartment that was one missed paycheck from homelessness. "Because your mother gave my daughter something I forgot how to give, and I owe her more than I can ever repay."
Maria woke in the hospital 12 hours later. The first thing she said was, "Diego." "He's safe," a voice said. Maria turned her head. James Mitchell sat in the chair beside her bed. His tie was loose, his suit was wrinkled. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Where is he?" Maria tried to sit up. "At my house, with Sophie. They're fine. I have someone watching them." Maria stared at him. "Why?" James pulled out the card from his pocket, set it on her bed. "I read this." Maria's face went white. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm sorry. I never meant—" "Why were you in my house at 3 a.m., Maria?" "I spilled something. I came back to clean it up." "Why do you work at a restaurant after you leave my house?" Maria looked away. "Why do you work double shifts until you collapse?" "Because Diego needs to eat." Her voice was fierce. "Because the rent is due. Because I don't have a choice." "You could have asked for a raise." "And you would have given it to me?" "You don't even know my son's name. You don't know I'm a widow. You don't know anything about me except that I clean your house." James flinched. "But you know everything about Sophie, don't you? You know she cries herself to sleep? You know she sits at the dinner table alone? You know she waits on the stairs every night hoping you'll come home. I provide for her. You provide money." Maria sat up, ignoring the IV pulling at her arm. "She doesn't need more toys. She needs her father." "I lost my wife," James stood, voice rising. "I lost the love of my life, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure Sophie has a future." "She doesn't need a future. She needs a present." Maria was shaking. "She needs you now, today, before she grows up and stops waiting, before she stops hoping, before she becomes another child who learns that love means absence." The room fell silent. James sank back into the chair, his face in his hands. "I don't know how," he whispered. "What?" "I don't know how to be there. When I'm home, all I see is her, my wife, in Sophie's smile, in her laugh. It hurts too much." Maria's anger softened. "So you run?" "Yes. And Sophie pays the price." James looked up, tears in his eyes. "What do I do?" "You stop running," Maria said gently. "You stop working 18-hour days to avoid the pain. You go home. You have dinner with your daughter. You ask her about her day. You tuck her in at night." She paused. "You do what I do with Diego, even though it hurts. Because they didn't ask to lose someone. And they need to know they didn't lose us too." James stared at her. This woman who had nothing, who worked herself unconscious to buy his daughter a doll. "The card," he said hoarsely. "She wishes you were her mother. I'm not trying to replace anyone." "I know." James looked at the card again. "You gave her something better. You gave me a friend." He met Maria's eyes. "She's right. You gave her what I couldn't, what I was too broken to give. You're not broken. You're grieving. There's a difference. How do I fix this? One day at a time. One dinner. One bedtime story. One morning where you ask her about her dreams." James was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Will you help me?" "Help you? Teach me how to be a father again. I don't remember how." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, I'll help you."
Maria came home from the hospital 2 days later. James Mitchell's driver picked her up, brought her to the mansion. She walked in to find chaos. Diego and Sophie had attempted to make breakfast. Pancakes were on the ceiling. Syrup was everywhere. James stood in the middle of the disaster, looking helpless. I don't know what happened," he said. Maria started to laugh. "This happened because you let them be kids. How do I clean this?"
We clean it together." And they did. James, Maria, Sophie, and Diego. Scrubbing syrup. Laughing at the absurdity. Being a family, even if just for a morning. Over the following weeks, things changed. James came home for dinner, every night at 6 p.m., no matter what meeting he had. He asked Sophie about school, about her day, about the doll Maria had made her. "I named her Maria." "The doll. I hope that's okay." James looked at Maria across the table. Their eyes met. "That's perfect, sweetheart," he said. He started reading to Sophie every night. Books her mother had read to her. It hurt at first, but then it became healing. Sophie began to light up, to laugh more, to hope. And James began to heal, to remember that his daughter needed him alive, not just financially secure. Maria watched it happen, her heart full. One evening, James found her in the kitchen after the children had gone to play. "Maria," he said. "Yes, Mr. Mitchell." "James. Please, after everything, you can call me James." Maria smiled. "James." He looked nervous. "I want to ask you something, and please feel free to say no." "Okay. I want to offer you a different position. Not housekeeper, family manager. You'd oversee the household. You'd have benefits, health insurance, a retirement plan, a salary 3 times what I'm paying you now." Maria's eyes widened. I don't know what to say." "Say yes, please. You've given my family back to me. Let me give you stability in return." Maria thought of Diego, of being able to afford his school supplies, his field trips, maybe even college one day. "Yes," she whispered. "Thank you." James smiled. "Thank you. For saving my daughter, for saving me." They stood there in the quiet kitchen. The distance between them suddenly felt smaller. "James," Maria said softly, "you saved yourself. I just reminded you how." 3 months later, the Mitchell house felt different. It wasn't silent anymore. Diego and Sophie ran through the halls laughing. James came home early on Fridays to take everyone to the park. Maria lived in the house now, a suite of rooms on the 2nd floor, not as staff, as family. It was Diego's 9th birthday. They threw a party in the backyard, just the 4 of them, cake, games, balloons. As the sun set, Sophie and Diego ran off to catch fireflies. James and Maria sat on the patio watching them. "This," James said quietly, "is what I was missing." "What?" "This feeling that life is happening now, not someday, not after the next deal, now." Maria smiled. "You're learning." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then James said, "Maria, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Do you ever think about, after Carlos, have you ever thought about—" He trailed off, struggling. Maria turned to look at him. "Have I thought about loving someone again?" "Yes." She was quiet for a long moment. "I didn't think I could. The pain of losing Carlos was too much. I thought I was done." "And now?" Maria looked at Sophie and Diego laughing together in the twilight. Then she looked at James. "Now I think maybe love isn't something we find once and lose forever. Maybe it's something that grows in unexpected places, with unexpected people, when we're brave enough to let it." James's breath caught. "Maria!" "But," she interrupted gently, "we have to be careful. We both lost someone we loved. We both have children who've been through enough change. We can't rush into anything just because it feels easy right now." "You're right." James looked down at his hands. But someday, maybe? Maria smiled. Someday, maybe. Sophie came running back, firefly in a jar. Maria! Daddy! Look what we caught! James stood, scooping his daughter up. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Diego ran up to Maria. Mama, can Sophie sleep over tonight? Please. Maria laughed. She lives here now, mijo. Every night is a sleepover. Oh, right. Diego grinned. Later that night, after the children were asleep, James walked Maria to her suite. Thank you, he said at her door, for everything. For my daughter. For me. You don't have to keep thanking me. Yes, I do. He paused. Maria, I meant what I said earlier about someday. I know. I just want you to know I'm willing to wait, as long as it takes, because you're worth waiting for. Maria's eyes filled with tears. James! Good night, Maria. Good night. She closed the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. Across the hall, James stood in the same position, both of them smiling, both of them wondering what someday might look like. And in their rooms, Sophie whispered to her doll, I think Daddy likes Maria, while Diego said to his pillow, I think Mama is happy again. And somewhere, somehow, maybe the universe was smiling too.
The story could have ended differently. James could have stayed buried in work. Maria could have remained invisible. But something simple changed everything. A handmade doll. A card written in crayon. Words spoken by a child who saw what adults had forgotten. That presence matters more than presents. That time is the most valuable thing we can give. That sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who see us most clearly. Maria didn't set out to change James Mitchell's life. She didn't plan to become part of his family. She just saw a lonely little girl and did what any person with a heart would do. She showed up, she stayed, she cared. And in doing so, she reminded a broken man that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to live again, to love again, to be present for the people who need you. Sometimes the greatest gifts aren't the ones that cost the most. They're the ones that come from the heart. Thank you for watching this story. If it touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who believes that presence is the greatest present we can give. Don't forget to subscribe to Becca's Stories for more heartwarming tales of hope and second chances. And if you want to know what happens next between Maria and James, let us know in the comments if you'd like to see part 2. See you in the next story.